Good morning. I'm Pastor Ben Hayes from First Baptist Church, Dadeville, Alabama, bringing you our thought for the day on this Thursday morning, March the 4th. And I hope that you have already spent some time in the Word and prayer. And we really need to be praying for one another these days and praying for our churches, praying for our government, just praying for peace as God just restores the hearts of men and women all over this land. We're in the book of Proverbs as we're going through these thoughts for the day. And if you'd like to follow along, we're in Proverbs chapter 28. And we're going to be talking about one verse in this chapter that deals with a problem as old as time. Apparently, even back in the days of King Solomon, 1,000 years before Jesus was born, there was a practice that is very similar to what goes on in our world today. Now, think about this. Do you ever do this? When you are driving along and you're coming up to a stop sign and there's someone with a sign that says hungry, need food, do you turn your eyes away and keep going? How about this? You're walking along the street of one of the larger cities and there's someone that stumbles up to you and asks you for $1. Do you give it to them? Or maybe growing up, I can remember constantly there were these television shows showing the starving that was going on in Africa and places in third world countries where people had needs, and we would always change the channel. Do you ever do that? Well, please don't misunderstand. I'm not saying that we should be giving to every person that comes and asks for money, but listen to what King Solomon says. He who gives to the poor will not lack, but he who hides his eyes will have many curses. He who hides his eyes. See, the practice of that day was if you saw a poor person, a beggar on the street, you just kind of cover your eyes and move along so that they would realize that you weren't going to help them at all. Now, here's the problem we face in our world today. There are many people who are out there who are begging for money who really don't need it. They just don't want to work and they can make a pretty good living just asking for money on the street. I'll never forget one day that I was I think it was either Mobile or Pensacola, Mobile, Alabama, or Pensacola, Florida, driving to the hospital. And there was a man on the side of the road who had a sign, and he was dressed in old clothes, and he had a backpack, and he looked like he hadn't had a bath in days, and asking for money. And I'll never forget that as I was coming out of the hospital, I saw him walking down the sidewalk into a parking lot where he got into a brand new pickup truck. And I realized at that point what this guy was doing. He was making his living by asking for money on the street. There are lots of people who are asking for money on the street that if we give it to them, they're immediately going to go and buy drugs or alcohol. So what do? How do we help these people? Well, what I've always done is I've always taken the opportunity to point them to one of the agencies or churches that help folks who are truly in need. And at our church, we use several systems to make sure that people are not taking advantage of churches, because there are people who will go from church to church to church, and they know that they can depend on the church to give them enough money that will carry them through the week, and that's how they make their living. What we have to do is we have to be open to the leadership of the Holy Spirit. Listen for the voice of the Spirit as we come up to a person who appears to be in need. And let the Holy Spirit guide us as to whether we give or not. Because we want to use the money that God has given us wisely, and we want to use it to help people, not to enable people. So if you just feel like you need to give to help the poor, then do that through your church, through the Salvation Army, through some ministry that will oversee the distribution of the funds in a way that would be pleasing to God and would have the greatest impact on the people around us. Don't hide your eyes, because those who hide their eyes will have many curses. God is not pleased with those who are selfish and don't want to help the poor. But don't be taken advantage of, and don't enable those who could be working, should be working, and who would use your money for the wrong reasons. That's the message for today. Listen to what King Solomon has to say. Be generous, but be wise. God bless and have a great day.